It is now 7 o'clock, and I'll call the meeting to order. Can I please get a roll call?
All counselors are present.
Can everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under special words of the day and announcements, we had introducing newly hired and promoted employees.
At this time, will Acting City Manager Beth Kruger introduce our newly hired and promoted employees?
I will call Julie Christensen up if you want to introduce your new staff members and promotions.
I will introduce one of my new staffers, Terry, even though she's not new. So Terry, as you all know, was our Community and Housing Services Director. She actually, if you don't know her background, she once was a bus driver, once worked police maintenance. She went back to school and got her bachelor's degree from UW-Madison. And she started at the Housing Authority as Special Programs Administrator, left us at some point in between, or started at NHS, came over here to be a Special Programs Administrator, then became the Grant Administrator, then the Community and Housing Services Director, and then when Michelle Gavin left, she filled in as the Interim Transit Director. And then we realized that this was a good opportunity for us to have Terry kind of fill this Deputy Community Development Director job, where she will be overseeing both transit and community and housing services. And I'll let Terry introduce her new staff.
Thank you.
Terry.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you, and I'm super excited. I think that transit fits well under community development, so I'm really excited about the new routes and bringing those forward to you, so we're working on those really hard. Before the transition happened, as you all know, I've been doing CDBG for about 10 years now, and we hired a compliance specialist. Ashley Rosenbaum is a compliance specialist. Ashley, why don't you come on up? Ashley worked for DPW for how many years?
3 years as seasonal and 1 as
So 3 years as a seasonal and 1 as solid waste. Ashley has a bachelor's degree from Beloit College in Spanish, and she came over to us as an administrative assistant, and she did well in that position. We put her in the compliance specialist position, which assists with the CDBG program, and I was really impressed with how quickly she was catching on, and she kind of takes things as her own and makes her own way of doing things, which is awesome. And so we promoted her to grants administrator. So now she will be in charge of the CDBG program, and probably home once she gets a handle on CDBG, we're gonna give her home too. She will also be the staff liaison to the Equal Opportunities Commission. So Ashley is a great asset. I don't know if you want to say anything. No? Okay. She's a little quiet. She's a little quiet. She does. And as part of the transit transition, what we did is we created an operations manager position. So James Thompson, if you'd come up to the podium. So there are kind of two pieces to transit in the leadership. So there's all this grants business that grants and compliance and project management and things like that leaves you stuck behind a computer and doing all those kind of things. But there's a pretty big operation at transit that needs day-to-day management. So boots on the ground, working with the drivers, working with the supervisors, and making sure that everything happens, because the buses can't stop. The show must go on, right, whenever anything happens. So the transit runs 6 days a week, 14 hours Monday through Friday, and then how many hours on Saturday? It's 9? 9 hours on Saturday. So it's a pretty big operation, and trying to do both things can be challenging. So James was with the City of Beloit for 7 years as transit supervisor. He left to be a supervisor at I don't ever know the name, Madison Metro? Madison Metro for 2 years or 3?
2.5.
2.5 years. I didn't study, if you can tell. 2.5 years, but his background is he served in the United States Navy for 23 years, and has a lot of transit background. And James has great leadership skills. He's also quiet. I don't know what happened with these two. Probably I talk so much, God wanted to balance it out a little bit. But he's a great leader. Our employees respect him. He has great ideas. He also takes the bulls by the horns and really makes things happen over at Transit. And so I thought that he would be excellent as a operations manager. So he's in charge of all of the day-to-day operations over at Transit, while I sit behind the screen and do the grant stuff. So I think you'll do a great job.
Thanks.
Welcome. Do you want to say
Thank you.
anything?
Congratulations.
All right. Thanks.
Next, Captain Stewart.
Thank you. So we have 2 new employees to introduce tonight. Katie Zweep is a records clerk. She's going to be is one of 11 or 12 of our record staff that compiles everything and makes the police department work behind the scenes, all the records, all the reports. They type all the reports for officers. Talk to you when you come to the window, when you have questions and things like that. So we're very happy to have Katie on board. And Nate Schumer is one of our community service officers. They handle parking, animal complaints, accidents, and things of that nature. So we're very happy to have him on board. Our hope is that we can develop him into a full-time police officer someday. That's one of the reasons why we have this part-time community service officer position. So the other part-time community service officer couldn't be here tonight. So thank you very much.
And then Laura.
Public Works has a lot of new people that we're going to be introducing today. I'm very excited. If I could have Ray Hill and Sue Eddy please join me. We're very excited. They are in our engineering team. Sue started with us on August 26th. She has over 20 years of underground construction experience as an analyst and inspector. She has a Bachelor's of Science degree. She has a son and a daughter, and is a Packer fan and a Badger fan. So we're very excited. She is one of our construction techs, so we're very excited to have Sue with us. And then we have Ray Hill, who has joined us. He too started on August 26th. Ray spent a year and a half as a project engineer at a firm outside of Madison before arriving with the city of Beloit. He has a civil engineering degree from UW-Platteville and is currently working towards his master's in engineering management at UW-Madison. And when he first joined us, was right about the time we had the Bluff Street thing. So he got a great, both of them did actually. Both of them are out there. So we're very elated to have both of them joining us in the Public Works Department, but in the engineering team. So welcome aboard. Glad to have you. All right. Next I have you, Nicole Yost. Nicole wants to join me. And we're very excited to have Nicole. Nicole is in our recreation division. Where is she at? Here she is. She's in our recreation division, and Parks and Recreation, I should say. And she came from Oak Lawn, Illinois Park District, which is a suburb outside of Chicago, where she was employed over 9 years and has a lot of various experiences and backgrounds with that particular park district. However, most recently, she was a recreation supervisor for 6 years, and she is a certified Parks and Recreation professional. She is excited to be here in Beloit, and she's been with us over a month. So we're very excited to have Nicole here. And one of the things you're going to see coming out, if I may, is we've tasked Nicole with helping us to put together a community-wide survey as we're really taking another look at community programs. So we're very excited to have Nicole with us. And then I don't believe I have Todd here. Todd Beaver, he has joined us.
Nope.
Nope, I don't think he was. I didn't think so. Todd has recently joined our Water Resource Division, and as you know, he was formerly in the Community Development Department, and so he is helping us now with working with all of our SIU companies in our Water Resource Division. So we're excited to have Todd join us. And then if I may have Elisa join us. Come on up, Elisa. And Elisa is one of our environmental technicians also in water resources. She is working very closely with Cheryl Simplot as well as with Bill Frisbee. And Elisa comes to us with a bachelor's degree in environmental management all the way from the University of Maryland University College. She has experience in dealing with environmental projects with Maryland Environmental Service. Also as a volunteer, she was a tour guide at the Smithsonian. So a lot of that research and that attention to detail, which is wonderful for our department, and her knowledge and experience with environmental regulation and public health will help us to, again, take our program to the next level. So we're very excited to have you all the way from Maryland joining us here. So give a warm welcome to you. Thank you. And then last but not least, and he was not able to join us, but we recently added Don Pringle to our citywide facilities division also. Don was not able to be here. He is from Beloit, and he brings with us vast experience to help us round out that team. So a lot of exciting things going on in Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all? Wow, we had so many tonight. That's wonderful. So I know some people left out, but we just want to say congratulations on your promotions, and also to the new people, welcome to everybody. Welcome to our team.
And as we move on to the public hearings, Lori usually tells everybody,
Yeah,
you're
I would
not
just-
required to stay, although you're welcome.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. Congratulations
Yeah.
again.
Item 4A is consideration of Resolution 2019-139, approving an amendment to a planned unit development master land use plan for the property located at 1920 Whipple Street.
Okay, Community Development Director Julie Christensen will give us a report.
So back in 2016, you approved a PUD master land use plan for a redevelopment project which involved the construction of storage unit buildings and duplexes on the properties located at 1405 Madison Road and 1402 Town Line Avenue. The original resolution approving that is included in your packet. As they went about doing final engineering, they determined that the third duplex, the third lot over, which was going to have stormwater detention, wasn't necessary. And at that point, they didn't want to move forward with anything, but at this point, Mr. Edelman is wanting to do a duplex on that lot. It is not needed for stormwater. Bill Frisbee has confirmed that. So that is their request, is to add a duplex. Plan Commission did review this item on October 9th and voted unanimously to recommend approval, subject to the 8 conditions which are listed in your resolution, which are that this approval authorizes the construction of 1 duplex building, that the permitted uses include R2, 2-family uses, the front and street yard building setbacks shall be 20 feet and 10 feet on the interior side yard for all 3 duplexes. The maximum height shall be 2 stories. For the duplex building, a landscape buffer shall be installed between the storage units and duplexes consisting of 15 landscape units per linear foot. The location of the duplex driveways must be approved by the city engineer. Public sanitary sewer shall be installed in an easement along the rear lot lines to serve the proposed duplexes, and a development agreement will be required for sewer construction. Prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall, at applicant's cost, construct public sidewalks along Whipple Street in front of the duplexes and connect to the Town Avenue sidewalk. Prior to the issuance of a building permit for this project, the applicant shall submit a PUD final plan that reflects the conditions above and detailed site and architecture plans for planning staff review and approval. All conditions from the previous PUD resolution remain in full force and effect, and then the standard condition of major changes coming back through this public process and minor changes being approved administratively. And we did ask at the Plan Commission meeting when they were proposing to move forward with the duplexes, and they suspected they would move forward in the spring.
Okay.
And this is on your agenda for public hearing and action tonight.
Before we get started, I believe that Councilor Blakely may have a question.
It's a very simple thing that I see on one of the forms here. That David Lupke signed as the council president. It says on the 6th day of February, 2017.
And I was wrong, it was 2017. Yeah, we must have received the application in 2016, so it was approved in
Right.
2017.
Okay. So that causes no legal
No,
problems.
causes no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Just a mistake on our part, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you for that clarity, Julie. Are there any other questions from any councilors before we move forward? Okay, at this time, the public hearing is open. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor of the resolution, please come forward? Would anyone wishing to speak in favor of the resolution, please come forward at this time? Final call. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward? Would anyone opposed, please come forward? Would anyone opposed, please come forward? Final call. Would anyone opposed, please come forward? The public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve the proposed resolution?
I so move.
There's a first by Councilor Forbeck. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Blakely. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that said, motion carries.
Item 4B is consideration of resolution 2019-140, approving a conditional use permit to allow an outdoor seating area in a CBD 1 Central Business District Core for the property located at 414 Pleasant Street.
Community Development Director Julie Christensen will explain the proposed resolution.
Tom Morgan has proposed the construction of a 44-foot by 26-foot enclosed outdoor seating area behind the building at 414 Pleasant Street. Enclosed in your packet is some drawings of the actual outdoor seating area, which is listed as attachment A, and then there's some renderings of what the outdoor seating area will look like. The zoning ordinance states that outdoor seating areas in CBD1 are only allowed if reviewed and approved in accordance with the conditional use permit review procedures. Plan Commission did review this item on October 9th and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the conditional use permit subject to the 8 conditions which are on the attached resolution. They are that this conditional use this conditional use permit authorizes the outdoor seating area as shown in the application attachment A. Music may not be played in the outdoor seating area after 10 p.m. The addition of a meat smoker is approved subject conditions imposed by the fire department. And then the standard condition about major changes coming back to this public body or minor changes being approved administratively. And then it is further resolved that the applicant is formally advised of the following additional ordinance requirements. Before constructing the outdoor seating area, the applicant shall obtain an architecture review certificate and a building permit as required by code. The maximum capacity of the outdoor seating area shall be determined by the building official prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the building and shall be posted accordingly. If required, the applicant shall obtain the appropriate liquor license for the premises to include the outdoor seating area. In accordance with Section 2-506 of the zoning ordinance, the applicant shall have 12 months from the date of the CUP, conditional use permit issuance, to complete construction and commence use of the outdoor seating area, or it shall lapse and be of no further effect. And Plan Commission did recommend approval, and this is on your agenda for action this evening.
Thank you, Julie. At this time, the public hearing is open. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor of the resolution, please come forward? Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, hi, I'm Tom Morgan. I'm the owner of 829 Church Street in Beloit. I'm the owner of Derriere LLC, doing business as Cheeseheads.
Okay.
Oh, I'm here to speak in favor of,
Yeah.
I guess, answer any questions.
Okay.
I'll be putting, if you're familiar with the old, what's known as the Zilli building, Amy Arnold is the owner out of the Chicago area. And that lies, it's the old Ron's Vacuum Shop. The outdoor seating area, which is in your packet, is to the west and back side of the building. So that's where we'll be putting call it something similar to an outdoor beer garden. As she stated, it would be in a area about 44 by 28 feet. And I anticipate to move forward with this as quick as possible. We're waiting for approval tonight to move with other governing bodies and contracts.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any questions of me?
Anybody have a question? Councilor Forbeck, did you have a question?
I just have
A comment?
a comment.
Go ahead.
congratulations to have such an innovative use there. I went walking it yesterday, just around there,
Yeah.
and everything.
It's gonna be a neat space. Thank you.
It is going to be a neat space.
Yep.
So, and to then use the alleyway, you know, as
I like
something.
to think of it as a garden, not an alley.
Other than an
From this
alley.
point forward, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So.
Thanks, Nancy.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else wishing to speak in favor please come forward? Final call. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor please come forward? Would anyone oppose please come forward? Would anyone oppose please come forward at this time? Final call. Would anyone oppose please come forward? The public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve the proposed resolution?
Just get it on the floor.
Ca-
Motions and then discussion.
Yeah, first we'll have a motion and then we'll have and then we'll get to you. Can we have a first?
I so move.
Okay, a first by Councilor Blakely. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Forbeck. Any discussion at this time?
I would like to make a motion.
Okay, Councilor Prushel.
I would like to make a motion that we remove the item 3 from the requirements as, I think it was item 3? Yeah. Regarding the meat smoker. That wasn't in the one we sent to the Plan Commission, and I just soon feel more comfortable voting on it if we're not dealing with it at all. As I understand it, it's not something that's part of the usual and customary conditional use permit process anyway. So I would just like to make a motion that we strike number 3, item 3 from the recommendation.
It would be, the appropriate motion would be a motion to amend the resolution by striking condition number 3.
Right, that's what I want to do.
Okay.
I don't do this very often. In fact, I can't think of the last time I did.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so we had a motion by Councilor Prushel, a second by Councilor Forbeck. Any other further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that said, motion carries.
So now we'll be voting on the resolution as amended. And there was a motion made by Blakely and a second by Forback.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Have a
Item-
good evening.
Item 4C is the 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan, the 2020 annual plan, the 2020 to 2024 NARSA plan, and the CDBG proposed budget. Give me just a moment to set that up.
Okay. And while you're doing that, our Community Development Director, Julie Christensen, will introduce this item tonight.
What am I doing?
Make sure you just come up and then you're going to go to the right to change the screen and you should be set.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go back. Okay, so the Department of Housing and Urban Development requires each CDBG formula grantee to submit a consolidated plan every 5 years and an annual action plan each year. And both plans include specific objectives for housing, homelessness, public housing, and community development. It includes information on the CDBG process, affordable housing, and special needs populations. So our current consolidated plan expires at the end of this year. And then we also, you may recall in, I think it's 2017, I'm now doubting my years, but that we approved the NARSA plan, the Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy area. And so we're also including that as part of this. And then the final thing that is part of those planning documents is the budget, which is what is in this PowerPoint tonight. So what we're estimating for our 2020 entitlement grant is $625,000. This screen is showing the revenues that are in play for the program. And then there's $92,145 for the Economic Development Program income and prior year funds, which is a program that is no longer active. So we just take those funds and allocate them to eligible programs. And then the Housing Rehab Program income and prior year funds of $177,543. And then there's some lending money from NeighborWorks Blackhawk region for a total of $897,188. Then your public service cap is set at 15%, so that amount is $133,263. And then the planning and admin cap, the total is $148,55. And then the amount that can come from the grant, $125,000. So this slide shows you what CDA recommended for the public services. They did go to the max for the cap of $133,263. The first column shows you any prior, basically, in this case, 2020 grant funds are all that are in play for the public services, but I left all the columns so that you could kind of see it as you went through. So we'll be putting the new grant dollars toward the public service programs. A lot of these programs have been around for a number of years, so they're not new. But we do have some newer applications. The Retired Senior Volunteer Program of Rock County, I believe, is new. Salvation Army Supportive Services. And this is kind of what was recommended. Trey Foundation, Beloit Legal Access was not recommended for funds because they did have a number of findings. So we were having some issues with them following program guidelines. And YWCA actually didn't come and present. So they didn't, that's a mandatory requirement, is that you come before CDA. Terry, is there anything I forgot? Okay. Just taking advantage of Terry being here for this presentation. And then the next section is the NARSA activities. So some of these may be public service activities, and because they're being done in the NARSA areas, which is the Maryland Hackett neighborhoods, they can be funded outside of the cap. And so we're proposing to continue the 2 navigator positions because we do think they're very important, connecting people to services, getting them connected to the programs, funding the Maryland Community Center, and then ECHO, rent assistance to prevent homelessness, and then direct home ownership through, I guess it's actually NeighborWorks, Blackhawk Region. I did not put that in correctly. And then the next set is the code enforcement program, which is being funded with some prior year funds as well as grant funds at $215. And then here's our planning and admin, which shows the $125,000 from the grant, and then the total of $148.55. So there you'll see that there's program income as part of that budget. So there's $23,055 towards program administration. The program administration line item relates to just paying for a part of a number of staff salaries, including Ashley's, who administer the program, and then $5,000 is set aside for fair housing activities to do the general fair housing complaints, plus getting them started on doing some stuff related to the analysis of impediments to fair housing. And then 2 housing activities, 1 our housing rehab program, and then 1 NeighborWorks Blackhawk Region direct home ownership assistance. This is outside of the NARSA, so they can do it citywide, for a total of $897,188. I think that might be on my CDBG slides, yeah. So what's on your agenda tonight is just a public hearing. So if anyone is here to speak on it, tonight is the night to listen. And then at your next meeting, this will actually be on your agenda for action: the consolidated plan, the annual action plan, the neighborhood revitalization strategy area, and the CDBG budget. So the clerk will get to read all that again.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from counselors at all? I just have one, Julie, with the YWCA.
Yeah.
You said that they weren't eligible for the funds because they did not appear at the hearing. Is that what it was?
Yeah, each applicant, you may recall, is required to come to the CDA and present what their application is, and then that gives the CDA an opportunity to ask any questions they may have. And I think that was the only reason, right, why they didn't get recommended for funding.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed by that, especially since they're be providing transportation.
Yeah,
it's not
we were.
your fault.
Yeah,
I'm
we were
just
too.
saying, just for clarity, just
Yeah.
so the public is aware of what happened with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Julie. Okay. At this time, the public hearing is open. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward? Would anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward? Final call. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor tonight, please come forward? Would anyone opposed, please come forward? Would anyone opposed, please come forward? Final call. Would anyone opposed, please come forward? The public hearing is now closed. There is no action required of the council on this item this evening. We will move to the next item, please.
4D is the 2020 Home Investment Partnerships Program budget.
Our Community Development Director, Julie Christensen, will introduce this item.
So the city is a member of the Rock County Home Consortium, and as a result, the city receives an annual allocation of those home funds. The consortium agreement was amended in 2016 to allocate additional dollars to the city of Beloit. So starting in 2017, we received 28% of the project funds. In addition, we also received funds for administrative activities, which includes staff time to operate the program. And so for 2020, we're estimating that the city will receive $165,000 in new home grant funds and $18,265 in admin funds. We also anticipate having $186,000 in program income and $550,000 in prior year funds in 2020. We had a number of projects that we were hoping to get rolling in 2019, and we didn't. It was kind of a busy year, so we didn't get them moving forward. Our intention is to try to get some housing programs going on in the Merrill neighborhood. We did start 1260 Wisconsin, and that is nearing completion, but we were hoping to do a new construction on a vacant lot on Dewey and work with Community Action to do a project. So that is now a 2020 activity. So we are recommending, and then we are also recommending using $160,000 in the total funds available for owner-occupied rehab loans, with the remaining balance to be used for acquisition, rehab, and new construction projects in those NARSA areas. So we could use some of those funds in that Merrill area, and then I think there's enough funds there that if we wanted to do another project in the west side, that housing target area, we could still do that. And so this shows the funding that I kind of just went over. And this is just on your agenda tonight for a public hearing. And on this, what I forgot to mention on this list is $80,000 for community action. So the each year, us, Beloit, Janesville, and Rock County accept applications for the Community Housing Development Organization funds, which is the 15% that off the top of the Rock County funds have to go to a development agency who can do new construction or rehab projects. This year, we received one application for Janesville through the Wisconsin Housing Partnership, one application for Beloit through Community Action, and what we decided to do was that we would do one project in Janesville, one in Beloit, so we'd split the money, and then Janesville and Beloit have to pick up the balance. So the balance of Community Action's project is $80,000, and what they're proposing to do is buy a vacant lot from us at the corner of Dewey and Wisconsin, which is one of our tax foreclosure lots, and it's a double lot, and then they would do new construction with their Fresh Start program, and then we would pay for part of that. And Terry and I actually drove by and I think scared the kids. Drove by the Community Action, and we were kind of walked over there looking at us like, why are you talking to us? But it looks like a good group of kids who are doing a great job, and so this would be a 2020 project for Community Action. It would be a block away from 1260 Wisconsin, and then what our hope is that our new construction would be just like half a block down, and so we would get kind of like we had on Euclid, where we'd get a lot of kind of synergy with a bunch of projects going on at the same time. And so then this budget will be on your agenda for the next meeting.
So Julie, we have projects going on the east side of town and the west side of town.
Right now, we don't have anything planned for the west side, but we think if the funds allow, like what we'll do is we'll bid the project on Dewey, and I mean, obviously there's going to be money left. Then we're going to look at because we have vacant lots on the west side in that target area that we did where the Euclids are. And so we think that we could also potentially do one at the same time. We also don't want to overtax staff, so we're trying to kind of walk slowly through it. And the other option is we could actually send out an RFP to the not-for-profits, and maybe they would do a new construction with our funds. So, I mean, we have a lot of options available to us related to that, and that's why it's focused on new construction or acquisition rehab in the NARSA areas, because we want to keep focusing those resources in those two target neighborhoods to try to really make a difference in the housing arena in those two areas.
Thank you, Julie. Are there any other Counselor Jacobson? Go ahead.
Julie, I see that we're rolling over $550,000. Do we have to use that this year? Is there a deadline on using that?
There isn't a deadline anymore on the home funds, but we still want to try to push those dollars out as quickly as possible. So they took away the requirements for it used to be committed within 2 years and then spent within 5. But we still feel like we should get that spent even if we don't have a timeline, because we don't want to give the federal government any reason not to fund us with more money. So we want to keep spending it.
And this has only rolled over for one time?
Yeah.
Counselor Prushel.
I remember at one time there was problems finding some nonprofits that could take on another project. They were oversubscribed. Is that
Yeah.
an ongoing problem still?
Yeah, there is limited capacity.
Yeah.
I mean, Wisconsin Housing Partnership is doing projects in Janesville and Beloit. They were supposed to start the Beloit project on Highland in September, and they haven't. So I think they've got a lot on their plate. Community Action is being very careful about how they set up their projects, so they're taking really one project at a time, so they're not overcommitting themselves.
Not getting ahead.
And NeighborWorks says they're interested, but we haven't seen them respond to anything. Like when the Choto application comes out, they haven't responded, but if we're going to do an RFP, we'll actually personally reach out to Joy and Cecilia, and Kathy Camp at Wisconsin Housing Partnership to make sure they're aware of it and to try to get a little more interest, because it would be nice to have NeighborWorks do a project because they haven't done a project in a while.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't heard their name for a while. And these are opportunities we don't want to, I agree, getting them out early is better than waiting.
Yeah, and I think that Community Action is finding, just like I think we're finding, that it might be easier to do new construction than to get into these old houses and rehab them. So I think if we can use our housing rehab dollars to try to give those to people to rehab their houses and then fill in some of these vacant lots, I think that's probably the best thing for the neighborhoods. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and we'll give you updates as things go on as to what's going on, and some of it will come before you, but if it doesn't, we'll make sure that you guys are looped in so you know what we're doing.
And we're not building cookie-cutter ranch houses anymore, are we? No. Thank God.
And 1260 Wisconsin, Terry just went light shopping today for the lights in the house, so the walls are all in, and everything's in, but it's about picking lights now and flooring and that kind of stuff. So within the next few months, I'm assuming that house will be complete, and we'll make sure we have an open house so you can come and look at it.
Wonderful. Any other questions from any other counselors? Okay, at this time, thank you, Julie. The public hearing is open. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward? Would anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward at this time? Final call. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward? Would anyone opposed, please come forward? Would anyone opposed, please come forward? Final call. Would anyone opposed, please come forward? The public hearing is now closed. There is no action required of the council on this item this evening. We will move to the next item, please.
4E is the 2020 operating library and capital improvements proposed budgets.
Director of Finance and Administrative Services, Eric Miller, will introduce this item. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. Good evening. So, the city's proposed budget for all funds is projected to increase by about $1.7 million, or 1.7% over the 2019 budget. Of that amount, roughly $850,000 is attributed to the increase in the general fund, which will bring the general fund up to about $33 million, or 2.67% over 2019. And then the enterprise funds as a whole have increased by approximately $500,000 up to $19.5 million. So this slide is just a high-level summary of all of the funds by type. You can see there the total at the bottom is the 1.7 that we just touched on. The two biggest fund types that increased from last year to 2020 is the general fund and the internal service funds. The internal service funds is driven primarily by the increase in the health insurance premiums in our health fund. That's going to cover both active and retirees in that fund. And then the general fund is, of course, just your normal operating type expenses for all the different departments that we have in the city. Some of the biggest decreases here is the capital improvement budget. The primary driver of the decrease there is the fact that we're just replacing less vehicles, as vehicle replacements tend to be in our capital improvement plan. So some of the highlights here in relation to the staffing, we did fund the police inspector position fully for 2020. This position is very similar to the assistant chief position. And then we were also able to fund a human resources analyst position that we had taken out of the budget a few years ago to, as just a simple cost savings measure as we were trying to balance the budget. So we were able to get that back in there as a much needed position. One of the biggest moves that we did this year in terms of the overall organizational chart is moving the transit division under the community development division. That is now a combined position with the community and housing services director / interim transit director is now the deputy community development director. Terry was here, she hit the road. So with that change, it did enable us to save about $100,000 to the transit fund. And so there were some other employees that were actually introduced here tonight that had an impact in that. And some of those other changes were Ashley Rosenbaum's position, which had a direct impact on the CDBG budget. And then, of course, Terry's position also impacts the general fund. So it was good overall for many different funds within the organization. Some other increases here related to personnel is the 2% across the board cost of living adjustment that is for all employees. We matched the non-represented employees to try to match that up with the represented union employees in the public safety and transit unions. And then we also implemented the 10% premium share in our health plan across the board again, up from 7.5% in 2019 to 10% in 2020. You kind of see the history of that move as we have steadily increased those premiums. Some of the other financial highlights related to the 2020 proposed shared revenue and expenditure restraint has remained flat for a many number of years now. We do not anticipate that changing anytime soon. And then, of course, we have the highway aids that are projecting to increase by $122,000 thanks to Governor Evers' budget, which increased the highway aids by 10% over last year. It's been the first increase that I've seen to that magnitude in quite some time, so that was very helpful. The personal property aid did decrease by about $75,000, but we were able to put that back into the tax levy, so it's basically a net wash when it comes to general fund revenues. It's just a different way of reporting that and recording it. The net new construction increased by 0.126 up to 1.23. And we also got an additional 1.038 due to our TID number 6 closure. Those are really important numbers when it comes to the city, as those drive the amount that we're able to increase our levy by. So we take full advantage of that and we levy to the max so that we don't leave any of that capacity on the table, which we did do. The assessed and equalized values increased 0.79 and 8.21% respectively. Just a reminder that assessed values are assessed locally and equalized values are assessed by the state. That's how we can have such vast differences in the amount of increases in those two property types. And then I just touched on the municipal tax levy a little bit ago. The increase in the levy was $332,000 or 2.12%. And that, of course, is still restricted by state levy limits. So each year we also take a look at all of our fees across the city that we charge. And the purpose of that is to simply try and recoup what we can to cover the cost of providing those services. And what you'll find is the majority of those tend to lie in our Park and Recs division, as those are a lot of services that you end up taking advantage of programs that they offer. We try to do what we can to cover some of the costs. We'll never cover all those costs, or else the price themselves right on the market, but they do tend to offset those, some of those costs. As far as utilities go, we are proposing a 3% increase on our wastewater utility. That makes up the majority of that $500,000 that I talked about on the slide earlier. We are not increasing the water utility rates for 2020, but we are planning to do a water rate study in 2020 with anticipation of a January 2021 implementation. It takes about 9 months to do. Of course, both of those increases in capital improvements needed to continue to provide safe drinking water.
Amen for that.
Important stuff. So this slide here is just a summary of the municipal tax levy, 332,000 representing 2.12%. There's a slight change in this slide from when the proposed budget was presented 2 weeks ago. And the reason for that change is because we had a change in our assessed values, or our projected assessed values. And so when those assessed values change, it has an implication on the tax rate. And so we're now seeing about a 4.7 cents per thousand increase in our tax rate, as opposed to the 1 cent decrease that we had shown on the slides during the proposed budget 2 weeks ago.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. So 2 weeks ago when we did the proposed budget, we had our assessed values were higher.
Yes.
What we thought were going to be higher. So that's the denominator in the equation. So as that, it's basically math. So as your denominator decreases, it makes the product different. So the assessed values decreased, which made the tax rate then go up because we did not increase the tax levy at all. In fact, in order to try to mitigate some of the tax rate increase for the decreased assessed values, we actually reduced the amount of debt service that we're levying for. So instead of going up higher, we took some of the the debt service tax levy out. So we decreased the amount of levy, divided that by the lower assessed values to come up with a new tax rate.
How does that impact our budget?
It doesn't impact it.
In other words, you make an adjustment.
It's just a different
You make an
funding.
adjustment to, so it doesn't impact that.
Right, we adjusted the debt service tax levy to use fund balance to still pay for the debt that's outstanding.
I have to tell you, when I read the original budget book that came
Yeah.
out a month ago or so, I did a thought experiment on what it would take to take a nickel off of the levy.
Yeah.
Just because I wanted to know what that dollar amount was, because I know how it impacts salaries and stuff. And I came up with $320,000 or $330,000 is the figure I came up with, kind of rounding up. And I see it right here now on this sheet, and it's like, oh, that's actually close to what I guessed.
Pretty
I mean,
close, yeah,
I
you
was
did pretty good.
surprised. I was just kind of fudging around with some numbers going, that looks like I need about $325,000 what I think I came up with.
Yeah, you're pretty close, you just have to have the correct assessed values, you can make some assumptions.
But I just so that, people understand that these have real impacts, and just a nickel means that we don't have 2 police officers, or we don't have 3, or 4 inspectors or
Right.
something. I mean, there's real consequences that ripple along from that nickel.
Right,
And
exactly.
that's the hard decisions you have to make, and that's the hard realities we have to deal with our lower assessments.
I just want to say something.
Yeah, it's right there, 4.7 cents is $332,000.
Yeah, and that's a direct reflection of our lowered assessments, our lower property values, that we're not able to realize better revenue from them at a lower rate.
Yeah, you would want those to be higher to reduce the tax rate even more.
Thank you, Council Christian. And I believe Council Blakely has something.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to you students who came this evening and just to point out that even though stuff looks dry as toast, no offense, Eric.
Yeah, that's it.
Not all of us are math and finance mavens here, but it looks dry on paper somewhat, to many of us, and yet it has a really big human impact in the community. So that's part of what goes on with the work that we do. We take numbers like this and help translate them to the community, and we look out for people living in Beloit, and then kind of help pull it all together. So I just wanted to say, this is a moment to look excited. That could be about it. I'm glad you're all here.
And we'll take other questions. We'll let Eric kind of just walk us through this, the rest of the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So here's just a little graphical representation of the tax rates that we were just talking about. Kind of shows you back So about 4 years ago, you can see the increases or decreases in the tax rate over the last few years. It's just important to note that, we've only increased the tax rate by about 37 cents per $1,000 of assessed value over those timeframes. So pretty minimal impact overall when you look at our services that we provide. And then, of course, the graph that we talked about on the assessed and equalized values. You can see the big spike in 2019. We had very good economic impact from the state equalized values that impacted those equalized values. That does have an impact on our overall debt capacity as well as our increment in the TIF district. So this is the public hearing for tonight. There is no action on this particular item. However, this will come back to you in 2 weeks as an action item for your consideration for approval. That is all I have.
Thank you very much, Eric. At this time, I'll entertain any other questions or comments from any of the counselors. Go ahead, Councilor Freshel.
When you look at the big chart, the differential between the assessed and equalized values, how do those move back closer together, and what would be the results of that, and time frames involved and all that? Because this is the most startling year I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And I know it has something to do with reassessments and things like that, the real, ground truth basically is what you're talking about with that.
Yeah, so how you correct that is you would have to do a reval of all the properties in Beloit. So, and that's a reval that's done on the local side. So then it revalues those locally assessed properties up to get them close to what you would call market value. And then equalized value is kind of a benchmark for the market value. So that's how you would end up doing that.
Are we getting close to that time?
We're getting close. We are in the middle of trying to choose a CAMO product, which is an assessment product. It's a software. In order for us to do the reval, we need to get the new software in place. And you typically run that new software for about a year, and then you do your reval. So we're looking at a reval approximately 2021 or 2022. So there's going to be a little bit of a lag.
I kind of knew where we were going with that question, and I just wanted to put it on the record so that the public would hear it and understand. Thank you.
Sure.
And thank you, Eric, for your presentation tonight, and also thank you for your presentation that you had given to the counselors and also the public and the staff about a week or so ago. So thank you for that. We went through it line by line, and you all were well prepared, and it was a wonderful presentation, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So at this time, thank you, Eric. The public hearing is open. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Final call. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Would anyone opposed, please come forward. Would anyone opposed, please come forward at this time. Final call. Would anyone opposed, please come forward. The public hearing is now closed. There is no action required of the council this evening. The budget will return for recommended adoption at the next regular meeting of November 4th, 2019. We will move to the next item, please.
Public comment.
We've reached the point in the agenda for residents to speak to the council about issues that are coming before us or may come before us in the future. Council members may not act on any requests at this meeting, but may refer a speaker to staff for assistance. We ask that you hold your comments to 3 minutes or less and refrain from personal attacks of any kind. Public comment is a privilege, and we expect everyone to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Speakers are asked to complete a comment form and turn it in prior to the meeting. Each individual will be invited to the podium and asked to state your name and address for the record. Are there any members of the public wishing to address the council this evening? If there are no other public comments, we will go on to item 6, consent agenda.
All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council so requests, at which time they will be removed from the general order of business at this point on the agenda.
Thank you. Would any council like anything removed from the consent agenda? The consent agenda consists of items 6A through 6C. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Okay. We have a first by Counselor Jacobson, second by Counselor Prushel. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7A.
Consideration of Resolution 2019-145, approving applicants for an alcohol beverage operator bartender's license for the years 2019-2021. You have before you 14 applications being recommended for approval and no applications for denial at this time.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item 7A?
I so move.
Okay, we have a first by Counselor Anderson, Vice President Anderson. We have a second by Counselor Forbeck. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that said, motion carries.
Item 8A is consideration of ordinance number 3665, amending the zoning district map of the city of Beloit for 511 Public Avenue from R4 moderate density multifamily residential to PUD planned unit development. This is second reading.
Okay, does Community Development Director Julie Christensen wish to provide us with a summary of the ordinance tonight?
So at your last meeting, you approved the PUD master land use plan for the mixed-use redevelopment of the vacant parcel at 511 Public Avenue into 14 row house units and a small commercial building and off-street parking lot. The second piece in the PUD process is the rezoning. We held a public hearing at your last meeting, and this is on your agenda for action tonight to rezone it from R4 to PUD, planned unit development district.
Thank you, Julie. This is the second reading tonight. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I so move.
Okay, it was a first, I think, by Counselor Forbeck and a second by Counselor Blakely. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
8B is consideration of ordinance number 3666, amending the zoning district map of the city of Beloit for 200 West Grand and 525 Cross Street from CBD 1 Central Business District Core to PUD planned unit development. This is second reading.
Director Christensen, do you want to provide us with a summary of this ordinance?
Sure. So at your last meeting, you also approved a PUD master land use plan for a phased mixed-use redevelopment of the former Carrier production site located at 200 West Grand and 525 Cross Street into 3 buildings totaling up to 174 dwelling units, limited first floor commercial uses and off-street parking lot. The second piece in that PUD is the rezoning to PUD. You held a public hearing at your last meeting. This ordinance is on your agenda for action. It would be rezoning the property from CBD Central Business District 4 to PUD planned unit development district.
Thank you. This is the second reading tonight. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
So moved.
Okay. Have please, okay, Counselor Prushel moved that. Was there a second? Counselor Jacobson seconded that. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 8C is consideration of ordinance number 3664 to create section 1802 sub 15 sub 2 of the Code of General Ordinances for the city of Beloit, authorizing outdoor vending for an annual hockey event sponsored by Beloit Blue Line Club of Beloit. This is also second reading.
Does Public Works Director Williamson wish to provide a summary of this ordinance tonight?
Good evening. This is just to allow the Beloit Blue Line Club the authority to go ahead and have outdoor vending for their 28th annual event. So it's up for second reading.
Thank you. This is the second reading. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I so move.
Okay, we have a first by Counselor Forbeck. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Prushel. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Under item 9, we do have appointments this evening. The individuals, all name will be taken by one motion unless you want to separate them. At this point on the agenda, there are 3 on the agenda this evening. To the Alcohol Beverage License Control Committee, we have Jeffrey Klett to a term ending June 30th, 22. To the Landmarks Commission, there's incumbent Joy Beckman to a term ending October 31st, 22. And to the Municipal Golf Committee, we have Nicholas Hagan, replacing William K. Mays to a term ending December 31st of 2019.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the appointments as recommended? Okay, we have a first by Counselor Blakely, a second by Counselor Forbeck. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And item 10 is counselor activities and upcoming events.
We'll start with Counselor Prushel.
Well, thank you, two students, for staying. You didn't think I would notice? I did notice. But, you know, this is a good meeting to attend because this is the actual budget. This is what really makes things happen. So thank you for attending and thank you for staying. And I think before I start, I just want to recognize that Mike Meyer passed away recently. He was the owner of Welcome Home Interiors downtown, and most people don't realize it, although I'm sure Mike realizes it, that he had actually probably more effect on me being here right now at this meeting than than he realizes. He encouraged me to get active and stay active, and that I could do this, and that was like 20 years ago. Because I used to help him with his computers and trying to figure out this internet thing that was going on, because he sought my help, and I learned a lot from him. He gave me a lot of background and encouragement, like I said, and I don't think he ever realized how much that meant to me. And so and I just only found out that he's a friend of mine. Another guy who rides his bike around and takes pictures, Terry Meyer, is his brother, and I've been friends with Terry for years, and I didn't even know it. And I'm going to miss Mike, and I just want his family and Terry and everybody to know that there's a guy sitting here today that Mike made a difference for. So I want to bring that up, and before I got to go on now. But I was busy this weekend and last week, but I will mention I attended the Real Deal because somebody needed some photos. So there I was taking photos at the Real Deal, way too late. And the next morning I was at church talking about community service at Calvary Tabernacle. I was invited by my friend Pastor Rick Bailey. And if Rick were Catholic, he would be on his way to sainthood, because that's 3 miracles. He's gotten me to attend church 3 times in less than 18 months, which is better than Sean Stapleton ever managed. So anyway, I just wanted to say I was up with that. And I'm going to, there's a lot of people that have had a profound effect on me and that aren't with us anymore, and Mike was one of them. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Prushel. Councilor Jacobson.
No report.
Councilor Blakely.
I saw Mark taking pictures everywhere
You were in
at the
some of them.
Real Deal at Beloit Public Library Saturday night. It was a fundraiser for BIF, the Beloit International Film Festival, and the library. I think it was quite successful from what I heard based on the number of people there. And it certainly was a lot of fun. So the International Film Festival comes up in February, so we have a lot to look forward to there.
Thank you, Councilor Blakely. Councilor Levy. Councilor Forbeck.
No report.
Vice President Anderson.
Just really quickly, I wanted to thank all staff for all the work, not only the budget, but all the stuff going on in the city. The city is changing. A lot of good things are coming out, and it's thanks to all of you. So keep doing what you're doing, because it's working, and I think we're really starting to see some positive change in the community. So thank you so much for doing everything you're doing.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess that leaves me. I missed the report from the last couple weeks that we had. So I just wanted to just wrap up and just say I attended the budget workshop along with my colleagues. Eric Miller, our finance director. Eric, you did a great and outstanding job. You gave a wonderful presentation and made the budget easier to understand for us. So thank you for that. I also had a chance to go to the Family Services Luncheon where Stephanie Klett was the keynote speaker. Stephanie did a really wonderful job, and she talked about the importance of family, so that was great to hear. I also went to the Greater Beloit Economic Development meeting. We'll be working with some students and doing some interviews at the high school. I also attended the Rock County Breakfast and also the Appointment Review Committee, Vice President Anderson and I, and also the Beloit Literacy for Life meeting. I want to commend Tara Tender, Bill Flanagan, and the Literacy for Life group for all their hard work, spreading the important message about literacy throughout our community. It's very important that we reach our children at least 15 minutes a day from the time they're born so that they can be successful adults. I want to thank our city staff, Drew Pennington, Director of Planning and Building Services, and Sarah Millard, Director of Strategic Communications, for joining in the conversation. During the meeting, it was shared that the United Way Black Hawk region, in partnership with Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, has a book gifting program that mails free books to children from birth until age 5, and I didn't know that until we were at that meeting. There is no cost to families. In order to sign up, all you need to do is to go to the website liveunitedbr.org/ there's a slash free books, or you can Google the United Way Black Hawk Region site for more information, and that makes it very easy. In addition, there are some wonderful events coming up. The NAACP banquet is on Thursday, October 24th at 6:30. The YWCA Racial Justice Conference is on Thursday, November 7th, 8 a.m. And if you want more information, you can certainly go to their websites. Also, BIF, the Beloit International Film Festival, will show a film screening titled When All That's Left Is Love, which focuses on the challenges of families dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia on this coming Wednesday, October 23rd. The doors will open at 6:30 p.m. at the Hendricks Center for the Arts, which is located at 509 Pleasant Street, and that is where the former library was. It's $6 for adults, $3 for students, and open to the public, so you really don't want to miss that. Also, there are many things happening and lots of economic development projects going on throughout our city. So this will be a perfect time to consider joining one of our city committees. The committee and there are committees and vacancies online. For applications, you can call Pam Lathrop. The number is 608-364-6614. And it's also, more information will be available on the city's website. In closing, I would like to thank our city manager, Lori Curtis Luther, department leaders, Beth Kruger, Eric Miller, Julie Christensen, Andrew Yankee, Nick Dismassis, Dan Peace, Ray Gorsland, David Zabowski, and Laura Williamson, and our dedicated city staff for providing outstanding public service each day. Please know that your hard work is being noticed and is very appreciated. I also want to congratulate the 5 community members inducted into the Beloit Historical Hall of Fame: Ron Whitley, Diane Hendricks, Tom Finley, Bill Barth, and Kurt Lansbury. Way to go. Heartfelt congratulations to James and Nancy Packard on being honored with the Bridge to the Future Award from the State Line Community Foundation for their caring and generosity to our city. Also, I want to say congratulations to Counselor Sherry Blakely. Sherry is an author of 2 novels, and she's a wonderful writer. So, Sherry, congratulations.
Thank you.
And also Kevin Levy for being appointed to the Rock County Board of Supervisors. We are so proud of you, Counselor Levy, and apply all your efforts. Let's give Sherry and Kevin and all our city staff a hand. I think I have it all covered. So next we'll go on to item 11.
There is no city manager's presentation. There are no reports for boards and city officers. So the last item of business is adjournment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are now adjourned.